Biting is a very common behavior under toddlers. They bite when they're frustrated, they bite when they're angry, they bite when they don't even know what they're feeling. The problem is that biting is inappropriate and that we have to redirect it to more appropriate behavior. We often tell them don't bite, but we don't tell them what to do instead. Useful tips that you can do is to tell them run around the house until all the anger is out of your body. When you do that, you also give them the vocabulary of what they are feeling. Another tip is to have a biting session where you give them all sorts of things that they can bite. And they can bite as hard as they want to. The novelty quickly wears off. In this way, you teach them that they can bite things but not people when they do feel frustrated. With us, we've got Mrs. Joan Orr, also answering some of our biting questions. Joan, how do you approach a child that bites?
Marinda, I think the first thing to remember is that you see it in almost all young toddlers. So if your child hasn't bitten yet, it possibly is still going to happen. I think also that it happens more in a situation where there are a number of children together, in a social situation. So if mom says, my child never bites at home, or very seldom bites me, that's probably true, because it's in the interaction with other children when they are battling to share the same toy, when we don't provide them with enough equipment to play with, that's when the frustration kicks in. So what we would normally do is first make sure that if you have a group of children playing together, you've got enough for them to do. Never expect your own child to share their newest present with visitors. That's really unfair. A toddler can't understand that. But have enough things for the children to do. Then, how to handle it. That's the next question. What we would normally say is the child needs to understand that the behavior is not something that we like to tolerate. And so I think it's really important to get down, look at the child straight in the eye and say to the child, you're not allowed to bite. Why? Because it hurts. And that's sufficient. I think it's really inappropriate for parents, and we often do get parents who say, well, I'm going to bite them back to teach them that. Well, what do we teach them? Aggression. That it's really inappropriate to use something that hurts their mouths, or to threaten them, or to shout at them, or to scold them too seriously. But we would normally then just ignore the behavior. If it's repetitive biting, I think one has to look at perhaps what's causing it. And sometimes, as you mentioned earlier, we can sometimes determine what the reasons are and then try to find a solution to that particular problem. What we often do in the preschool is if you have a child that is kind of known to be a biter and you see him on his way to someone and you can anticipate that the bite's going to be the result, we use a couple of techniques. We use techniques like distraction, get in there quickly and give him something else to do, or redirecting them to another toy. That works well with a toddler. But allowing a child to become overly frustrated, I think we're setting ourselves up for a situation that's actually going to have a bad result.
The golden rule with regards to this is to be consistent. You can't allow this behavior when you are too tired to intercept, and then at other times scold them in an overly harsh manner.
And I totally agree with you. I think toddlers just flourish when they have consistency, and it feeds through in all sorts of things that happen in that particular time of life. And yes, I think the one thing that I always warn parents about is don't let someone in the family think it's funny when your baby or your young toddler bites you for the first time, because they also learn to know when it's when they get a reaction that they want to repeat a behavior, and that often happens in families as well. Yeah, not often in schools.
Yeah. So it's much better to focus on positive behavior and ignore negative behavior, or redirect them to something more positive.